Everyone. Good morning to everyone here in the room in Tunis and everyone who is online now, or if you pick up this film later. We're delighted you've joined us this morning. We're here in the Africa Internet Summit in Tunis this morning. I am Kathy Brown. I am the President and CEO of the Internet Society. We are a global organization whose mission it is to advocate for the worldwide deployment of the internet, an open, trusted, and accessible internet for everyone. We are a staff of 90 people. We have 108 chapters of volunteers in 92 countries around the world who join with us and the larger Internet Society to advocate for the internet. So I am delighted to be here with many of the team from Africa, the ISOC Africa folks, regional office. Also, any number of our chapters are here and our staff. So thank you for inviting us, and thank you all for being here yourselves. Today, we can feel in the air, I think, here and all weekend, this notion of movement, of growth. There's much optimism here in Africa, particularly among the technical community, that the future of the internet is here, it is now, and it's moving very fast. We are issuing tomorrow, the Internet Society, a report on the internet in Africa, and I thought I would just give you a little teaser about what is reported in that report and what you'll be able to take away and perhaps use as you talk to folks. First, there has been rapid growth here. In 2005, the internet penetration in Europe was almost 20 times that of Africa. By 2014, it was less than 4 times, which means the growth here has been enormous. In those 5 years, Africa's international bandwidth increased 20-fold, and its territorial network has more than doubled. There are now more than 30 IXPs across Africa. The East African backhaul system is connecting internally on the continent, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda. Uganda, for instance, and Rwanda have now backbone access across borders. This cross-border access and connectivity has been a long-time mission and a long-time investment strategy for the nations of Africa, and they are succeeding at it. Interesting, as you all know, mobile devices are forecast to rise 23% of the African mobile market in 2015, and then to 40% by 2017. Africa has the highest growth in the world of mobile subscriptions year to year. And we know that as the mobile networks are being updated, that bandwidth is increasing and that users can do more and more on a wireless platform in reaching the internet. All of these facts, I think, and all of these realities lead to the question, what's next? Where do we go from here? So, our focus this morning is on the benefits of the internet to African communities, and I was interested in particular to get the perspectives of women who are doing enormous work in this area. I'm privileged here to be with a distinguished group of African internet advocates, engineers, and pioneers to talk about what feels like a tipping point here in Africa, where the momentum towards continued rapid growth of the internet across the continent seems inevitable. But we all know that inevitability still takes a lot of work. Before we take a deep dive into the conversation, I'd like each of us to spend 2 minutes and introduce yourselves. And please make sure you really do tell everyone the kind of work you do. And we'll get into it later on as to why you do it. But let's talk right now about who you are.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Okay.
Yes.
Hello. So I'm Hela Rafael Ben Ayed. I'm an assistant
professor at the Faculty of Science of Tunis, and I'm a researcher at the Crystal Laboratory at the National School of Computer Science. So as an academician, my domain of activity is on computer networks and computer and network security and privacy. My research activity is on field related to my teaching topics, and mainly actually privacy in internet and Internet of Things. So I'm here because topics of studied or discussed in have a great relationship with my activities, and I think that in the technical side I can give a contribution to improve the access to internet to women in our country, mainly in our country, while taking into considerations our contextual difficulties and problems. And maybe some solution could also be usable for other African countries. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Dorothy Gordon. I'm from Ghana, and I'm happy to see that we have a number of FOSFA members here. I head up I'm the Director General at the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT. We're the FOSFA Secretariat, the Free and Open Source Foundation for Africa. But the focus of our work is on capacity building and training, mainly in pure tech, that is networking, software development, IT security, all of those things. But we found out that we need to do more advocacy, we need to carry out more research if the internet is going to have the kind of impact on development that we want to see in Africa. I'm a development economist by training, and so it's been fascinating getting to know more about technology. So if any of you are in the audience and you're not tech people by training, you should know it is not difficult to get into. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Salwa Ghazoueli. I am the head of Article 19 Tunis office. Article 19 is an international independent organization defending freedom of expression and information. Our focus is within this discussion about internet and internet growth is human rights. So I hope that my point of view and the point of view of my organization regarding internet can be relevant. The point of view is freedom of expression for internet growth. I hope that it will be relevant for the panel. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Fiona Songa. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Telecommunication Service Providers Association of Kenya, and that runs the Kenya Internet Exchange Point and provides technical services to the government on cybersecurity. I am the focal point of contact for policy development and legislation and regulations affecting ICT as a whole in my country. I am also Afrinic's representative on the Number Resource Organization, the Numbering Council, and Afrinic's representatives on ICANN Address Supporting Organization. I am I'm on the Advisory Council of the Public Internet Registries.ngo program, and I run a number of private projects and programs in my country to facilitate ICT access and within the community. And basically that's what I do. Thank you.
So as you can see, we have a very accomplished panel here, a very accomplished group of professionals, technologists, economists, human rights advocates, I think, who can really bring to life the issues that are facing their own countries and the whole of the continent and region here. So let's go, okay? And please, I'm going to ask you some very broad questions, and please answer as you would like in terms of the issues you would like to raise. So let's start with the question, what do you all see as the greatest opportunities for internet penetration and accessibility, and for use, and how? in the next 5 years? Why don't we start with you, Doris?
The greatest opportunities for internet penetration, if we're talking about it from a technological perspective, it is the ubiquity of mobile devices. So we can see that smartphone penetration is going up by leaps and bounds, and so probably most Africans who will be accessing the internet over the period will be accessing it via their mobile phone. Now, what they do with that is another question. Right now, we are not seeing enough use of it in growing commercial opportunities. We are not seeing enough use of it for education. We are not seeing enough use of it in critical sectors such as health. So there's a lot that needs to be done for local content development in order to reap the benefits of that. So it's an opportunity, but unless Africans engage, we get more content in our languages onto the internet. We'll be using it for, let's say it would perhaps, because without research, and this is a call for more research, it could perhaps widen gaps, because you will have an educated urban elite that is using the nets and more or less directed out of the continent, and then you will have all the other people who cannot see the use of it.
What do you suppose?
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I think that the mobile phones are actually an opportunity to access, to connect to the internet, connected via have cell phones, and then can be connected via those cell phones. So the second step would be to access to internet services and facilities, which means that we should rely on the mobile phone to access to this content, to these services. So the first issue is that, is it enough? Can the mobile phone, when we share the connection through a mobile phone, maybe it is not enough. It's enough to have access to the internet, but is it enough to go forward and to access to services, to content, etc.? So this is an issue. How to provide a good access that would allow citizens to access to content and services, and not to communicate via mobile phone. And the second issue is that, what about the local access, the local content, the content focused to the population, because the statistics show that more than 50% of the connections are to foreign content and foreign websites. So what about developing local content that could help to improve the way of life of people?
I know this raises, particularly in the mobile world, a number of issues that I'm sure you are concerned about.
From freedom of expression point of view, I think that also the will and the desire of young people and women as well to be a part of this internet sphere, to be inside, not outside internet, is an opportunity for the African continent. The desire to express our needs, to participate to this public debate about the future of our continent, of our politics, of our economy, etc. It is a big opportunity for the internet growth in Africa continent. But in the same time, there are many challenges with regards to the free flow of information and freedom of expression. It is related to, of course, legal framework and legal obstacles, but as well for the less capacity and capability to produce a very good content in the internet in Africa. So there are many opportunities. There are when we see that in In Tunisia, for example, young prefer to have internet connection than to have another thing. But in the same time, yes, but in the same time, what we can do, I agree with Madam Helen, what we can do if we have the technology here and we have perhaps an environment which can enable freedom of expression without the capability to produce a good content.
So I think this idea of content and the ability to access content locally and globally actually goes to two very important issues. One, do we have the capacity to do it? And so I want to talk to you, Fiona, a little bit about what about the bandwidth that's needed on the mobile platform in order to enable that kind of access. And then in terms of the freedom of expression, are there particular issues that arise because it is a mobile environment, and that the ability, therefore, to do all kinds of things that are good things on a mobile phone, GPS, all kinds of data collection, etc. What does that do when we think about the issues ahead of us? Fiona, could you talk a little bit about some of the technical issues?
Thank you, Catherine. I think I do agree with everyone that the mobile phone has obviously been the greatest opportunity in terms of penetration. However, there are a number of issues we need to look at when we talk of mobile technology. There has to be applications that facilitate web to mobile interaction, and that creates another opportunity to facilitate internet penetration, because applications can be developed that enable from edge to 4G access interaction basically between the websites and the mobile phones, and those should be encouraged. There is the issue of now access of the mobile technology itself within rural areas, because when research is done, yes, people have phones, but sometimes those phones cannot receive network unless you're up on a tree somewhere. And therefore there is the challenge of ensuring that you don't just have the end user device, but you are also connected 24/7, 365. And I believe there are a number of efforts being undertaken by governments to facilitate that. The universal access funds are trying to bridge that gap, because the mobile operator will not go into a region unless they see it as being economically viable, and that becomes a challenge in terms of being able to facilitate internet access and penetration. When you look at it from the service point of view, we have other opportunities as well, such as e-government services and e-learning. And when you look at the countries where there have been increased use of mobile internet access, there is at the same time increased access of government services online, either via the internet directly or from a computer or via the mobile platform. So those two again are interrelated. The bandwidth required for this kind of application is much lower in comparison to the bandwidth you would require to have 10 computers connected in one particular location. Because with Edge and with 3G and LTE, 4G moving on, there's quite a lot you can do using that technology if you have the right end user device.
Very good. So I would like to continue with this theme, and I would like not to just limit this to a wireless platform, so please feel free to talk about the needs for a wired platform, which I think as Fiona just alluded to, when we have groups of users in a university, in a hospital, in the emergency centers, we may well need greater bandwidth than that which we can individually get on a mobile phone. So I don't want to just say that's going to take care of the whole problem, but it's part of a user experience, and it's part of what's happening in the world, that many users will indeed access the internet over a mobile platform. What are the next, as I think Fiona just started to talk about, what are the next 2 or 3 things, given the way the environment is shaping up, that are most important for us to address? And this time I'll go this way.
Yes.
From another time, freedom of expression point of view, it should be the review of any legal framework limiting freedom of expression. It is a very important thing for us as an international NGO defending freedom of expression. Because when we have a legal framework enabling freedom of expression and free flow of information, like here in Tunisia we have some, we have the Article 32 of the Constitution and other articles in the Constitution. We have also some laws adopted after the revolution which are good from international standards, but there are as well some laws which are very problematic for freedom of expression. So the first thing is reviewing all the laws limiting freedom of expression and free flow of information. The second thing should be how to because there is a question of know-how. Know-how. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Know-how. Yes. We have a pen, but we don't know what we can do with this pen. So we have a smartphone, but with many opportunities to do, but we don't know how to use it safely and how to use it in some relevant issues for our education, for our work, for our participation in the public debates, etc., etc. So there is a question of know-how. So how to allow, in particular, for me, young and women, to be able to communicate well with their smartphones or in internet in general, with safely, it is a very important thing, but as well in the best way for our existence online.
Very good.
Kevin, is this one
Yes.
hot?
Yeah, I've just switched it on. This is such an interesting set of issues. You're asking us to look into the future. What do we need to be doing? As they say with the internet, the future is now. What we need to be doing. Kathy and Fiona both mentioned, I think, the internet exchange points. It's a very interesting set of issues, because if we look at the percentage of our traffic that actually goes through our internet exchange points, it's not as high as it should be. And why is that? Because to some level our local ISPs have been damaged, and I say this in quotes because competition is good. They've been damaged by the fact that you have free internet access on a number of international platforms. And so we have that constant tension between what is available internationally and making sure that our industry grows. And so we have that tension of, as you were saying, the importance of educating people on what this pen can do, but then we have that need to be able to make a pen. And so are we going to condemn ourselves to being consumers of products that are made elsewhere, or are we going to set the foundation so that we can actually start creating technologies that are appropriate for us? And as Kathy was saying, not everything can be mobile. If you're actually going to develop solutions, you're not going to be able to do that on a mobile device. And you're not going to be able to do that with the kind of bandwidth that telecom companies are providing to their mobile users today. And this is a really big issue for Africa. Getting clarity on the cost of data is really difficult. And I'm sure ISOC, you'll be doing some research on this. I'm constantly researching the cost of data in Ghana, mainly because I'm by nature stingy, and why should I spend more on bandwidth than I have to? But from a deeper perspective, we see in some countries we have what we call bandwidth refugees, people who have had to move country in order to do business. And so this is really important. And then as big data comes on board, we see that many Africans don't understand that the business models of some companies rely on their ability to mine your data. And you see that government policy is really not up to date in this area. And so we are giving away data. People are giving away their data, and they don't understand what they're giving away. In fact, in general, Kathy knows I'm quite obsessed about this, that the terms of engagement that we all happily take, nobody has read. And they include that clause that they can be changed at will. And so you don't know really what you're agreeing to. I'm not a lawyer, so I've never been able to figure how a contract that can change 1 second after you signed it can still be a legal contract. But apparently in the US it can. So there are a lot, and these are companies registered in the US, so it's under California law mostly. So I think there's a whole set of issues in terms of bringing our people up to speed in understanding that this is really integral to our environment today. And it doesn't matter which discipline you're in, whether you're in law, medicine, education, road creation, whatever, transport I think they call it. You have to be concerned about this. And at the same time, because we are operating in democracies, as if we, as the African people, are not aware enough and concerned enough, our leadership is not going to reflect that in policy, because democracies are supposed to respond to the pressure of the people. So if the people are not aware, and so it's so multi-layered, Kathy, that this question alone we could talk forever.
Let me see, Ella, I would like if you would take that issue of being a consumer or a creator. I think you started out with that, and I'd like to stay with it a little because it then creation demands larger bandwidth. Creation demands many of the things Dorothy just talked about. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I think that the issue, there is like a chain of issues. The first requirement is the infrastructure. The first requirement is the infrastructure. And the infrastructure must be cost effective for the operator. It can't be cost effective if there is no use. And the people use when they find services that that reply to their needs. So let's start with the needs of people, women and men in Africa or in Tunisia. They need to have suited services, like you spoke about e-health, you spoke about ego. We can speak even about remote working. People are obliged today to go to large cities to find a job. In Tunisia, we have a huge proportion of jobless graduate young people. So maybe providing the opportunity for them to work remotely in their different skills could solve two problems. The problem of people coming to large cities, the problem of jobless, and if they work, they will create a need to bandwidth, they will pay for this service, and the operator will install the suitable infrastructure. It can be wireless, it can be wired, it depends on the geography of the site, but the operator studies seriously the opportunity to install the infrastructure if he knows that he will have a return on the investment. So this is for the service. The service, providing services that respond to the needs, to the people need, I think is the crucial issue actually in our countries. And as for women have big needs to work at home or to work near to their homes. Because everybody knows that in our countries women have main responsibilities. They have to take care of the house, they have to take care of the children, and they have to take care of of their job and to bring some money to the family. So how to do this without sacrificing one of these three key parameters? So providing the opportunity, how, by a strategy of remote working, the companies should have, the government and companies should agree on kind of remote agreement for hiring or temporal contract or such thing like this that would give the opportunity to work at distance from the company's headquarters. After this step, we can speak about security, we can speak about privacy, because this will be field dependent. If people work on e-health, we will have to deal of private data in medical sector, etc. So this is my opinion regarding what could immediately solve some problem related to jobless graduate young people. Thank you.
So Fiona, I'm going to come back to you. So this notion that the first thing I hear from everyone we have to do is get more. We need more. Kenya has been very successful. Now, Kenya, of course, first it was a deficit and then it was a plus that they're sitting on the coast. And because I think of some very persistent efforts by visionaries in Kenya, there now are undersea cables where there were not before. Not one, not two, but five. So in the last how many years? 10, I think. 6 years. 6 years. 6 years. 5 undersea cables where there were none. Now, this is wonderful because we have connectivity with the rest of the world. But how do we get from the coast to the interior? How do we get across Africa, east and west, north and south? Where are the big pipes? Where's the backhaul that gets us from here to there, which allows us then to have this enormous capacity to do the kinds of things that we're talking about. So work at home. Let me just say a minute about this and I'm going to pass it over to you. Because the Internet Society is diverse, it's all over the world, we don't work at home, we work where we work, and we must work online. We must talk to each other over the Internet. And recently we have now been able to do that using video, which of course improves the interaction between people 200% when you can see each other. What is required here, of course, is bandwidth. So that if we reach the state where we can have remote working and we want it to be optimum, we need bandwidth. With that, I want you to solve the bandwidth problem for us, okay?
Wow. Catherine, you keep throwing the most challenging. But I think using Kenya as an example, what has worked well for the country over the last couple of years has been one, suitable policy environment. The operators have worked with government. I have sat in various committees and task forces that are developing policy for the Ministry of ICT, as well as other ministries. We are going into roads and infrastructure and working with government to develop appropriate policy to help the industry grow. We have worked with our government to develop a national broadband strategy for a 5-year period, a national ICT master plan for a 5-year period, and all national cybersecurity master plan again for a 5-year period. And all these are policy documents that clearly guide on how industry and government will engage to ensure the industry grows. They have very clear objectives on what we want to achieve and where we want to be in the next 5 years. And some of them are as basic as we want 100% of the schools and health centers to have internet access on fiber and not wireless. So to even get that done, as the CEO of the operators, I have had to do quite a bit of moving around in the country. Last month, I visited a very remote island on Lake Victoria that is part of Kenya that needs internet connectivity. And yes, we say it on fiber, and I'm still now thinking through with the technical team on whether we will put a mini submarine cable across to the island, or we will have to get government to invest in some serious wireless solution. So we are working as partners, because the government has recognized that the owners of the infrastructure are private sector, and therefore the two can work best to achieve the goals that are set. The other thing that our government has done, and this is really a presidential initiative, our president has set out to ensure that all government services are available online all over the country. So that is putting pressure on the operators without access to USF to figure out what they can do, because the Universal Access Fund is going to come in and only fill in the gaps where the operators are not able to. As a result, with all the 5 cables landing, all these cables in Mombasa are serving the East African region, the landlord countries of Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Southern Sudan. And therefore, there is pressure on Kenya as a government and the Kenyan operators to ensure that there is access of internet at suitable prices across the border. So one thing that the regulators did, and this was now a regulatory intervention that the 5 regulators agreed on, is to allow ease of access across the borders. In Africa, we have a challenge of no man's land between our countries as a result of the colonial rule and leadership, and they are trying to determine where their space began and ended. So in between the countries, there is no man's land. When you want to dig fiber across no man's land, you have to get permission from all relevant ministries in one country and in the other country, and then they are looking at you and saying, hey, you are not, say, a Ugandan operator. You want to dig fiber into Uganda. Why? So initially, what we did with our operators back in 2009 is we went in and asked for licenses for them from the Ugandan operator, and therefore they would have a license to operate in Kenya, to operate in Uganda, to operate in Tanzania, and would have the ability to dig right across. But in 2010, the operators lifted that and have allowed the operators in the region, insofar as you have a license to operate and you just want to bring your fiber to a point from which other operators can pick it, you're allowed to dig through the no man's land with your Kenyan operator license. You don't need to have another one from Uganda. So a Ugandan operator then has the opportunity of picking it from you and digging it right through to Kigali. And that regulatory intervention has made a big difference. And right now the discussion is around ensuring that the cost of the transit from Uganda, say from Kampala or Kigali to Mombasa, is the same to any of those operators as it is for a Kenyan operator. And there's a lot of intervention from all the governments to build their own national backbone infrastructure. So we are having a lot of layered infrastructure across the country, some from Orange Telecom, some from MTN Business in Uganda, or Liquid Telecom, and there is as well the national fiber that is being built off into the far to reach areas. So there's a lot of activity amongst the governments and operators in the region to just make sure that the inland is served. For Kenya, the backbone has not yet reached everywhere. We are in the final phase of ensuring that our national infrastructure gets to all the counties. We've had challenges because of our Al-Shabaab issues. We are unable to appropriately dig the fiber through that area to the far north, but it is a work in progress. We are getting support from the Ministry of Internal Security to ensure the engineers are safe. When there is an alert, we quickly ship them out, give it time, and then have to take them back in. But I think the private sector and the government to facilitate access. Some of the things that we have set out to ensure also is to build incubation centers for local innovators. So all the guys who are developing apps, there is a goal to have key centers of excellence where they get support
And then we are also working on the Enterprise Kenya, which is a project that is funded by the US government, and that is what is bringing Obama to Kenya to open a forum where we will be launching Enterprise Kenya, which is really an agency that is going to support ICT firms get funding from local commercial banks to be able to grow their innovations and to grow their applications so that we can ensure we are reaching as many Kenyans as possible. So we are both solving the broadband and the access, the content access issues.
So, access is local, access is regional, access is global. And watching Kenya over the last many years, it has been fascinating to me that this strategy has paid off and is paying off. Not just for Kenya, but for all of East Africa and beyond, we would hope. So, undersea cables, backbone, and then this idea that that backbone then goes out to others. It's quite fascinating, isn't it? Now, with that kind of bandwidth, with that kind of capacity, we start to get to these issues that are quite pressing as to how to use it, how to use the pen, and then how to ensure human rights when we do these things. And keeping that as the undergird for all we do. Are we improving the lives of people? Are we ensuring that they have they are empowered to decide for themselves? All of these, I think, are issues that I suspect this group of us could talk about for about 3 hours. I want to shift just a little, and we'll come back to this. I don't know about you, but I find it fascinating, the depth of experience of this panel and the knowledge that has been accumulated over time in the work that has been done. There aren't many women in this area. I see some here in the room, and I want to see so many more. I think that women bring particular skills to the kind of things we have to do. Collaborate, plan, communicate, teach, stand for people's rights. Not that men don't do the same, but there's some unique qualities here that I think bring women to this area. And I'd like, just for a couple of minutes, to talk about what brought you to do what you do. Why are you here? Why is it you're doing this and not something else? Can we talk for a little while, because I want some of the women out there who are listening to feel inspired to come on aboard. Why don't we start with you?
For me, it was, I think, like a personal ambition with this new Tunisia after the revolution. So it is an internal motivation to be part of this change, to reinforce freedom of expression in Tunisia as a vector for democracy, as a vector for a growth economy, as a vector to ameliorate the life of communities which were which were outside the public debate, outside the priorities of the country. So it is an internal ambition. It is a motivation to be part in this new Tunisia, to reinforce and to advocate for freedom of expression and freedom of information for all people.
Let me go here. Okay, thank you. So my motivation here is to be involved in the internet era, in the internet discussion era about the decision making, the strategy making, in order to make of the internet technologies, the ICT, all the internet ecosystem, tools to improve our lives and women's lives, but even all the citizens' lives, as in Tunisia and in other African countries as well. All the discussed issues should be mixed together, because they constitute the backbone, the basis of the new internet, how the internet can improve the way of life, the quality of life of people in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of work, in terms of equality to access to internet, and which is a real issue in Tunisia and in Africa, because there is many disparities in regions. We have regions who are better equipped, better wired, and this creates inequalities. So I think the further step is to go to fairness in terms of connectivity, in terms of services, and we are, maybe all of us, could we go towards this goal.
So, how do we get more of you in this community?
Okay, my motivation for getting involved in ICT came as a result of curiosity. I have a degree in international business administration, finance. I had worked in the finance sector, advising companies on how to best invest for 5 years, and decided to get into IT because I thought it was exciting. And when I came in, I realized it wasn't as easy as I thought, because I first had to get the technical expertise part addressed. I sat for exams, Cisco, I passed, and was then considered one of the club. Then I realized it's a men's world. I went to discuss, the first time I went to discuss policy with the National Assembly, they told me, well, young girl, you've got very good ideas, but you sound like you're from Mars. And we need things that are practical. We are not ready. So I realized I needed to approach it differently, and I just got the energy to keep at it, keep educating people on the right policies. What do we want to achieve? Why do we want to achieve it? And how is the best way to go about it? So I spent a lot of time looking for information that would inform me on best practices. I tap a lot into your ISOC staff, and especially the legal team, and they give me a lot of material to work with.
I'm very glad.
And that helps me then create appropriate awareness on where we need to be moving to and what we need to do. The drive is to see positive change. There is no need inventing a wheel if it's already been invented somewhere else. Let us pick from best practices. Let us improve and adjust the best practices to what suits our country, our environment, our culture, and let's run with it. And that has helped substantially in terms of the policy positions that we take and we are able to develop on. And I am still very energetic and very passionate about the right policies to have an impact on the right policy. And as a result, the one thing I do, the private community programs I run, is because I want to test the policy we have approved to see whether it works. And we'll then prepare a report to the ministry and say, yes, we put this in the ICT master plan, but there are these challenges. If government doesn't step in and address 1, 2, 3, the ICT master plan will remain a paper. So kindly, as you're preparing the budget for the next year, slot that in, and we will help you lobby for appropriate budget for the ministry. So teamwork has been the one thing that I've ridden on a lot, collaboration, being able to negotiate. The beautiful thing is that as a woman raised on this continent, you are brought up knowing your place early in life. And as you grow, you're told, no, you don't speak up to men. You don't, your opinion is not always important, but you learn to use those to your advantage. And that has helped the country and my organization achieve a lot of the goals, because you're dealing with older men, much older men, who really expect that from you. And then how do you handle it? How do you deal with it? So I think, and this I think applies to a number of the African women in this room, we are raised knowing that you are to be seen and not heard. So how do you still get your work and your goals and your aspirations achieved and accomplished, giving the men what they want in terms of your visibility, but getting the hard work done?
So, Dorothy, I think the very first time I met you, you said to me, what about the women? You said, how are we doing in ISOC? What about the women? And so I want you to talk to the group here about some of the things you spoke to me about.
Yes, getting into the technology space, well, it's interesting because all the other panelists have kind of supported the research findings. that women get into technology when they can see that they're going to be able to use the technology to make a difference to the world. Whereas when they interview young men, they're very much into, yeah, it's cool, I can game, there's a peer network around me that makes it fun. Women want to see the wider impacts of technology in the world and to feel part of that, and I think everybody's been saying that. When I was appointed as Director General of the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT, looked at the landscape and I could see there were very few women. And I said, well, I would be able to make a difference. I have to say that I have failed miserably. And I think it is important that we understand why we failed. We offered scholarships for women, they didn't come. The only time scholarships worked were when we were able to get women who had actually already got computer science degrees and now were opting out of computer science. When we gave them scholarships for higher level training, they all came, they were desperate for it. But women getting into technology, you see huge barriers. They are facing the normal social barriers, the barriers we have within our educational system where women are constantly being told, these are not subjects for you. I've had a woman who eventually became an engineer because of an outreach program we did, but she had stopped hoping for that career because her brother said, look, you're going to climb masts in a skirt and everybody will be looking up your dress. And she couldn't bear the shame and she said she's opting out. I mean, you have to ask yourselves, was she really determined enough? But so many of the women engineers I work with have been deliberately sent messages, don't go there. And you see that there are now acceptable professions for women scientists in Africa. It's okay to become a doctor. It's okay to become a pharmacist. But computer science, parents don't understand well enough the range of career options that computer science, computer engineering, information technology open up for everyone. I'm an economist, and I have to say that base training clouds or orients your vision for life. And so we have to be very careful about the messaging. And for ISOC, I talked to Kathy and I said, look, I've been to ISOC events. Few resource persons were women, if any. And meanwhile, there are female resource persons. The panel will be entirely composed of men, even the moderator, and even the invitees. And ISOC is way ahead of other computer. If you go to a normal computer science meeting, I mean, Kathy, you have been the lone woman in the room, I'm sure, on many occasions. I'm a Ghanaian, and I'm an Akan. And for Akan women, we're not like, I don't know which ethnicity you're from, Fiona, but we are matrilineal, and we are brought up knowing that we have space to talk. Our children belong to our families. They do not belong to our husband's family. And we inherit matrilineally. So it's been so interesting to see how that culture, which is integral to us as Africans, is eroded by messaging that is going on in the international space. When I go to the village and I raise issues, young women in the village are very articulate and confident. You speak to a group of university women and they are hesitating to express themselves because they have been gendered through an educational system. I'm very passionate about these things. I think that there are certain things that we need to do immediately to get more women interested in technology. And we now have a body of knowledge that tells us that by expressing the question in terms of the difference you will make to society, women get more excited about it. We know as countries we need to put in some of that investment to reshape our educational system so that early on children are getting the exposure. We need to talk to parents so that parents understand the range of options that are available. And then we need to do a lot of retraining as well. So that that's one of the advantages of the Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT. You can come in with any background, and as Fiona said, she became a Cisco Certified Network Associate, I'm sure. You come in with any background, and then you can become a technology professional. There are so many different routes that we give people to be able to do that. And the fact is that the best students have very often come from other disciplines. You know, I don't know if I've answered your question, Kathy. I don't want to talk.
Dorothy can answer the question. So I think Dorothy said something important, that the way we grow up sort of, and I heard this from all of us, sort of suggests how we look at the world, and we have to retrain and train around that. So I'll say something personal here. I'm the twin of a brother. So I have a twin brother. And so I grew up never thinking one or the other, always both of us. Always. Before I left for this trip on Saturday, my brother called me and said, we must have lunch. I must hear what you're doing. And of course had 6 ideas for me to think about. But then I had 6 ideas for him to think about. So I say this because I think it's a crucial matter that we are all in this together, that we bring certain points of view to the table, and we bring our own selves to the table, men and women both. And so I firmly believe that together we need to embrace the technology of the 21st century, and together we must shape our future for all of us, for our families, for our communities, and for our nation. To not have women at the table is to, as Bill Clinton used to say, I grew up in that administration, so forgive me, leaves out half the population and half of the brains of the world. All of us need to contribute to the future. So, with that, I want to talk a little bit more. I want to just say, because I don't want this to turn into, gee, we are the ones who know, you don't know, no, we all know. We all know very different things, and together we need to collaborate. With that said, however, I want to talk just a little more about how we do attract young talent, men and women, knowing that it is more difficult to bring women into the conversation. Dorothy just laid out a formula that said, for women, they need to understand what impact they're going to make. By the way, for men, they need to understand what impact they want to make. For men, they might say, well, I need to make a living. By the way, for women, the question still is, can I make a living? Mm-hmm. So it's not that we have very different points of view, it's that our emphasis may be different. And what makes us passionate about our work may be different, or it may have different pieces to it. So let's talk a little bit more about what do we have to do as we think about the future to be more inclusive, to bring everyone into the conversation. Who would like to start? I won't pick one this time.
Maybe ask them.
Are we ready to hear from the audience on this?
We have Mary.
Who would like, let's see, who can help me with the mic? Grab it up. Thanks.
Since Dorothy has picked me up.
Yes. I know the camp, they cannot pick me up, but I selected Mary because she's such a leader in one of our most important countries on the continent, in Nigeria. Yeah.
Mary, I want to make sure the camera sees you as well. Okay.
The camera will pick me. Okay, all right. 2 days ago, we had a little get-together with young people like this, and we had a lot of testimonies from them, and I was encouraged. Okay, I was encouraged because of the things they said, how they were able to brace up and fight the euphoria of I'm not a man, I cannot do it. We went as far as talking about when women are pregnant, can they climb the masts? Okay, so we went as far as that. The thing is that we should first, I'm a grandmother, I'm talking to my daughters to tell them that they should make sure that what Catherine shared with us is happening in our homes. That is, there should be no differentiation between a boy and a girl. The girl child, in Africa in particular, we have this culture, natural culture of saying the girls should be kept behind. And some of us, by our religion, by our natural culture, we are to be seen and not to be heard. It's a different thing in Ghana. It's a different thing in Nigeria. What we're trying to do is that catch them young. Let the young girls get to know about technology early in life. And some of them have testified that it's helped them. So I heard about the Afri-Chicks. Af-Chicks. No, Af-Chicks. Look, Af-Chicks. Okay? So it should be promoted. Isaac should go as far as being part. I think Isaac is part of the Girls in IT Day where we celebrate. But when we talk to them early enough, some of them are afraid of mathematics. So if we're able to bring mathematics to a point that they can enjoy and work on it, then they will take that path. The other thing we have done is to be good examples. I know some ladies in Nigeria that say they want to be like Mrs. Suduma. Oh, that's my name, Mrs. Suduma. What did I do? My background is accounting. I'm an accountant by training, but I found myself in technology because I worked with the regulator. And when I got to the regulatory authority, I did not just keep quiet. I decided to research. I decided to develop myself. I said I must understand this technology that I didn't know. So determination also is something we can do. I'm happy about what Catherine has said, and I'm taking it back to my country to make sure that we also do something on that line. Dorothy, I want to know whether the center is for West Africa or for Ghanaians alone, or for Africa as a whole, so that we'll preach this message to other people in Africa, our girls and our ladies in the North Africa, women. But what we have done is to encourage them. Whatever little thing they do, we